Three approaches. One, to just address the report. Two, to talk about the industry, maybe in general, and some things that I have discovered about other people in the industry, in the hospitality industry. And third, and most important from my perspective, is really talking about passions and about motivations that people have and really outlooks on life. The report, I didn't see anything in there that I could, there was no untruths in there. Okay. That's always a good start, so it is, you know. I felt that the information that was compiled based on the one conversation that we had and a couple of telephone calls, and I think a couple of emails, that the information really did represent, I would say, probably maybe 60–70% of my thinking as it relates to what I see as the challenge ahead. Possibly, I would say, maybe a bit more digging could have been done to say, all right, come on now, here's a bunch of questions for you to really kind of find out. Let's dig a bit. I felt that it went so deep, let's say, whatever that is, and that there was stuff there that I think about, but I don't really talk about, that wasn't mind. Secondly, I felt that there should maybe have been a more direct or straightforward request for financial information that would have helped do an analysis of the two approaches. Other than that, I felt the pros and the cons, strengths, weaknesses, etc., they were accurate, so they were well balanced. I felt that they supported your conclusions, and so yeah, no issues on that front. So I'm happy to. So everything that was here I felt was good, and maybe just there was a little bit left on the table that could have been drawn more out of me. Any questions on it? Or do we just want to wait till the end? Wait till the end. All right. I gave a talk to approximately 150 people in the restaurant business yesterday at Sofitel Hotel in Bloomington. It's sponsored by the National Restaurant Association and a restaurant food magazine or chain of magazines. And what they asked me to come and talk about was to come and talk about sales building ideas. All right? Now, one of the things that they recognized was that I was fairly adept out there at getting publicity, whether it was papers, magazines, radio, television, blah, blah, blah. Part of that is, one, I'm a professional Irish guy, and I've got the accent, and I say yes to everything. So, sometimes, you play to your strengths, right? So I have those strengths here. If one of you was in Ireland, and you put yourself out there, the American blah, blah, blah. There's the the Minneapolis International Center is made up, I don't know if any of you are familiar with it at all, heavily involved with the major, the corporate, the top 100 companies that are based here, 3M, General Mills, Medtronics, Cargill, etc. Put a lot of money into it. And it's really about global understanding, both from a business and a cultural aspect. They hold talks here in town. They have a country each year that they designate as this is their country for the year that they're going to focus on, even though they do many other events. They've got a full-time staff who have very large events, get all these dignitaries that come to town, the King of Norway and the Queen is somewhere else, and so forth. Well, Ireland is the country that's been designated for next year. Well, I got a call from the guy from General Mills, one of their senior guys, who was going to be chairing it, and he asked me to co-chair it with him. And he asked me, he said, you know, initially, do you have any thoughts? I've always supported their fundraisers and so forth. Do you have any thoughts on about, you know, how you might want to influence things? Well, I said straight just off the top of my head, how I want to influence it is by not having everybody just think Ireland, St. Patrick's Day, green beer, drinking, blah, blah, blah. Because really that is some of it, and it does dilute the brand Ireland, if you want to call it that. And for me, it dilutes something about my heritage. So coming back then to this this talk that I gave to the restaurateurs yesterday, partly they asked me to go do it because Irish, etc. There are people in the business that are a lot more successful than I am, that have built bigger businesses, that have chains that are across the country and so forth. So it was a little bit of that. But I was very curious when I stood up there, and they're all in business, so they all have a restaurant. It might be a pizza joint, it might be a burger bar, and some in there that have 4, 5, 6 restaurants. Some fine dining, some more casual, across the board. Other people, consultants in the building, in the business and so forth, were there. So I asked, the first thing I asked them all, I asked them, all right, so what sort of things? I said, the title that was down it, the greatest sales building ideas from moi. All right? The world's greatest sales building ideas from moi. And I said, straight away, you know, that's a false statement. I don't have the greatest. I have the ones that have worked the best for me, for our business. And so there, straight away there, I said, that's your biggest mistake out there. When you think, you're not thinking, what is this about? So they're thinking sales, they're thinking marketing. This is marketing. Well, obviously you guys all know that sales is just one part of marketing and so forth. And so I went back to the question that I said to them. So many people in the restaurant business out there, they spend money on advertising like the proverbial drunken sailor comes into port. They send out press releases that are absolutely horrendous. Not all of them, but many, the majority, I would say. You look at the city pages any week. You look at Minneapolis St. Paul magazine. You hear some radio advertisements. You see whatever it is that's out there, promotions that are put on. And very, very, very few really have any great thought that have gone into them. It's just like, oh, well, Joe is putting one in there for a happy hour, I'll put one in for him. And so they don't get to really know what is their business about. What is their restaurant? What is at the heart of the restaurant business? The restaurant that they have. What is it about it? What is its soul? How did they connect to that soul? Or did they just get into it because they thought, oh, God, it'd be really cool to have a coffee shop, or it'd be really cool to have a pizza joint, or whatever, an Irish pub, or whatever it happens to be. They don't really get it. So when I asked them this, you know, what sort of things are you thinking about? And they said, well, what do you think about email, databases, and sending emails, and websites, and et cetera, et cetera. And the question there was coming, that they're looking at out there what's going on in the world and what's being used and what's been talked about in the newspaper, as opposed to really knowing, what do I want to really do with my business? What is it all about? Why did I start this business? Could I really get back into that? Could I really understand what are the things about my business? Because it's a very crowded marketplace out there. And it's not enough to have somebody say, oh, I know of Johnny's Burger Bar. I've heard of Johnny's Burger Bar. Your real customers, they better know what is the emotional connection to it. So there straight away where I would say, let's say, we'll be generous. 50% of the people in that room there yesterday didn't really know what the heart of their business was, what the soul was of that business. Yet they're in business. They are entrepreneurs. They started up a business and so forth. So, you know, it's not rocket science at the end of the day to figure out to start a business, you know. And this is where it comes to what I think is the most important aspect of being an entrepreneur or being entrepreneurial, having that spirit and so forth. For me, this is. Not, you'll read a million things in textbooks and you'll hear from a million entrepreneurs out there and so forth. This is just purely from me. You got to know yourself. Know yourself. What is it about yourself to get to know? I mean, go off to a mountain. I mean, it's very difficult at your age maybe to do that. But maybe at some point, a couple of years down the road, you've had a few bumps in the road, you've had a bit of excitement, you've wandered the world. Hopefully you'll wander the world. Best education you can get beyond, of course, coming to the Kierans School of Management, that is. And you get to that point and you kind of go off for a week. Instead of just reading and talking to people and so forth, go off and think to yourself, like who you are and what is it that you're excited and motivated by and passionate about. And you don't have to get it down to just one sentence, but to really have some things about knowing your values and so forth. And you have that. I think, that's the best thing that you can put into your back pocket. Because I can guarantee you, and I don't know if Jeff will support me on this, but I've never come across somebody, or even had one myself, a good idea. Now, good, that's all relative, but a good idea that money didn't follow. Money is not the issue in starting things. It's the good idea, your passion, your understanding of it. And so if you have a great understanding of who you are and what your passions are and so forth, you don't have to have it all figured out in life. That's not what I'm saying. But have some good sense of yourself. Then I think you can take that and you can add to it your education, of course, your life's experiences that you've had, whatever other environmental experiences that you've had. And if you've decided, you know what, I do want to start a business. I want to start it today, or I want to start it sometime down the road or well into the future. But at some point, I want to start a business. I would say when you get that idea for it, know that business. Have that idea and know it as well as you know yourself. Inside out, because there is your strength. If you are passionate in knowing, it's like with this business. Merchants, oh yeah, good idea, it's across the street, I love those guys from corporate Target, blah, blah, blah. Let's put merchants, we'll call it. That's kind of cute, isn't it? With Target and merchants and so on. And we'll do this and that and so forth. So it became a kind of a fun, creative thing off the top of my head. Everybody said, oh, it's beautiful. I mean, I've seen the photographs of it, because some of it I've blocked out. But I've seen the photographs lately, and they're absolutely, it was gorgeous. And you know what? I think it would have done well in maybe some other towns with somebody else running it. Because ultimately, it really had nothing for me. When I walked away from the creative ideas and the fun aspects of it, things went wrong with that. I wasn't even motivated to try and come up with a solution. I'd just go back across the road to the local and I'd say, right, what are we going to do here? Because it was Irish, and I was passionate about it. And I'm always thinking about it. And when I look at stuff and go to places, it is. So that comes out. And it really does come out in the business, because at the end of the day, I was never in the business. I went right into an Irish pub business, having done nothing other than sit at the bar, the wrong side of the bar, drinking pints. No, I actually liked it, and I still like doing that, so I do. But it really doesn't, as I think I said to the group the last time, it doesn't really qualify you for anything in life except maybe having a chat with somebody, at a bar or something along those lines. But it really doesn't teach you. So I went into that business. Now, see, that goes against what I said, know that business. What I did know was, though, I knew Ireland. I was passionate about the country. I was passionate about my heritage, the roots. I was passionate about the rural community that I came from. And having grown up in a rural community, there is something very, I don't know how many of you here have grown up in a rural community, like a farm community or something. I don't know if you experienced this, but there is something very passionate about the fields and the trees that speak to you, that you don't really get in a city, because there's so much going on, and there's so much, it's concrete, it's buildings, and I love cities. I find cities very, very exciting. But sometimes just that country, it feels like it's a bit of a conversation. I'm not really weird, but honestly, I do get that. So I was passionate about that. So I was able to survive in that business that I didn't know long enough for me to figure out that Peter needed to come along if I wasn't going to go insane, because there were aspects of the business I didn't want to deal with. But I knew the things that I loved doing, like the remodel at the local and the expansion at it. I mean, you know, I'm up at 3 o'clock in the morning, and I go to bed at 1. I'm up at 3 o'clock in the morning, not because of anything negative. It's just because my head is so full of things. Now, go down to the local after lunchtime on Wednesday, any time after that. You don't have to go literally, or Thursday, I mean, because we're going to reopen it at lunchtime on Thursday, and we are going to open it. They told me there were a few issues before I left to come over here, and you'll really see, I mean, there's a lot of passion. A lot of money has gone into it. There's a lot of passion. What has been done now is going to be around for 100 years, a lot longer than I'm going to be around. And so there, if you take that, if you take just understanding yourself, all of the things that you've learned, and you find that business at some day, and you really passionately get to know it, I mean, then it's like you. It's you. It's your name that's on it. And so you are able to defend it. You are able to support it. You are able to drive it. You are able to deal with, and of course you have to know who your competition is, and you have to know them very, very well, and you have to know your customers very, very well, who they are, why they come to you. Why do they come to you? You have to know really what I call it, the intangibles of the business. And the intangibles of the business are the things I think that you can only learn by living it, you know, because there are things that do give you surprises all of the time. And then you need all the things that you're learning here for sure. Very detailed financial plans, your very strong business plan, because that helps you to articulate things and to understand it. And then ultimately, someday, you're going to have to take a risk. And you know what? As long as that risk doesn't put you in bodily harm, really, I think you'll survive. My father used to say to me, and my father didn't say a whole lot, he was a really quiet man, but there are a few things I remember. Some of them I won't tell you, but one of them I will tell you. He used to say, you'll be a long time dead. You'll be a long time dead. And I always took it as meaning, well, you know, give it a good run while you're around. Because relative to the amount of time that you're here in life and that the universe has been going for and will continue to go for, notwithstanding even you might think there's doom and gloom with all the political discussions that go every election time, but the universe will continue on. I'm pretty certain about that. I have a good hunch anyway. And so your position in it, your lifespan, relative to that, is pretty short. So why not take some risk? I mean, to follow your passions, not just for the sake of it, but just do those things. And if they make you happy, you just keep doing them. If they don't make you happy, throw it in. It's not failure. You go do something else, whatever that happens to be. So that's where I put it for me. It is all about inside connection to things that you love to do, and then that's when the fundamentals of the business really come in. But those fundamentals, if you have them in terms of financial and operational disciplines and the good team that's with you and all the things that you learn, I think, you know, it's not as much. I don't think you'll be as successful, or two, that it'll be as much fun as if you're in a position that you're so confident in who you know, yourself, and the business you're going into. You do those, the rest will be, it'll be pretty good. Questions? Yes.
I was curious, you said about the rural, how much you love the rural area, and then you like the city too. What made you decide to open up in the very heart of downtown Minneapolis as opposed to like a rural area? Or like, did you debate about that?
No, I didn't. No. There's a very good reason why pretty much I went and worked on the building sites in England and London when I was about 16 to get myself through school. I always gravitated towards cities, but I do love the country. I like to go to it, but I like the energy of the cities. I find it exciting, which is one of the challenges that, again, that fits with kind of what's in my head, and really, I suppose, at the end of the day, what's in my heart. You know, ultimately, what do I think we'll do with Car Irish Pubs? I think what we'll probably do is we'll spin the local off. We'll form a separate company with it, and we'll go do whatever we're going to do. New York, Miami, wherever else it is with it. And I think that we will take that, what I will call smaller, regional, Kierans type concept, and maybe have somebody else run it and as a separate business, and maybe then I've got a guy in mind to do it, and maybe expand that in suburban areas or even other areas. Because to be quite honest with you personally, I really only want to be dealing with pubs like the local in places that I'd actually like to go visit. And I don't find much energy in the suburbs or in smaller towns in terms of a work-related thing. So I'd only kind of want to go and, where do I like to go visit? Well, I like to go visit New York, so I do. I like Chicago. So first, seem like good places to put it, because then you could go there and you could say, oh, I'm going to go do a little bit of business and not a pain in the ass, so it's not, you know. I don't want to drive 200 miles to somewhere or be stuck on 394 going up to wherever, you know, for 2 hours. You know. Yes?
Will you retire here or will you go back to Ireland?
No, I think I'm pretty much set here. Yeah, I've got enough debt to keep me here for quite a while. So, you know, for sure. What brought me here was the company I worked with in the Middle East. I was marketing with, they were an international food company out of Ireland, but they were primarily based in Middle East and in China. We did a lot of work with Cargill. We're out of here. And so that was one of the original connections. Then I came here and I thought I'd be here for a year or two, and I really like it, you know. And I go back to Ireland quite a bit, and so it's not a question of not, you know, wanting to be there. So that's one of the good things also about Minneapolis, St. Paul. I mean, it is pretty easy to get to places out of here. Good air transportation and whatnot, connections. Yes?
Do you have an exit strategy as part of your business plan?
Ah, yes, I do. Yes. I have a little plot of land, so I do. And it is over in the west of Ireland, and it's overlooking another little plot of land that I have over there. And I won't be actually able to see the other plot of land from the first plot of land. I'm just going to die and be buried, and that'll be the exit strategy. And then, you know, whoever is left then can go figure it out after that. Literally, that is it, because I'm really doing things that I like doing, you know, and so, yeah, I'm not. Well, it'd be kind of like the next man standing, really, yeah, whoever is. I think right now, if, you know, I got hit by the proverbial bus, God willing I don't, but, well, you just never know, do you? There is a plan in place, yeah. And there's somebody that would actually buy the business, buy my shares, and kids or whatever, the bankers, well, bankers first, and then kids would get whatever is left of it. And until, yeah, I just kind of keep doing it as long as I'm enjoying it, though.
Yeah. Just a little bit on the business side, just questions about partners you've had with the local. I pulled something up about Henry. I didn't get a lot of good information. And I know Peter's your manager of your other 3 pubs right now, but can you talk a little bit about, I don't know, just on a general business sense, because we hear a lot of things in here, and it makes it difficult for us to enter a business arrangement with partners. There's so many legalities and things that do happen, and that's all we ever hear across the table from people that own businesses. Oh, I had a partner, and then, you know, bad stuff happened. Right. So just interesting that all of your business, it seems like you can link it to partner or top manager.
Right. Well, I think, you know, Kierans I did not. I did it on my own. When I came across the local, we had to purchase the building. And I was not in a position to purchase the building. And really, the bank weren't in a position where they were going to. That would have been a bit too much risk, because the money then would have been going into real estate, et cetera, and the building was almost falling down at the time. It's a beautiful building, but it had been vacant for 9-10 years. And so I did bring Henry Cusno in and a number of other people into it. The other people are gone. Henry is still around, and the reason that Henry and myself are still around is because we're actually friends. We really like each other, and we can go for a pint and so forth. And we've never had, in 9 years, we've never had a bad word. We always straight shoot with each other. Here's the deal. Pick up the phone. No surprises ever. No surprises. And, you know, that is one of the things I think in general with business. I mean, you need to have integrity. I think, and he has incredible integrity, and I like to think that I've got integrity. Peter Killen, Absolutely. I would trust him with my life. So I would, no, hands down. He is a man of extraordinary integrity as well. And so really that for me is really where the connection is. I would be very slow to do an business arrangement with somebody that I didn't first really like. I couldn't look him in the eye and kind of say, right, you and I, we could cause some damage together. We could, I do that. I have a pretty good sense of people. It's been proven to have a pretty good sense.
Yeah, how do you plan to handle that if you do decide to go with the national expansion? Would it be something that you hire another Peter, or are you looking for something that someone with vested interest and partners on a business sense?
I think what we would have to do, we spin off the local. I think we would do one ourselves. Somewhere, we'd pick a city. In fact, I'm meeting with somebody on Monday morning, or Monday at lunch. We're having lunch, and he's the guy that's done all the real estate for Oceanair and for Buca and so forth around the country. And smart, sharp guy, knows the business very well. So I'm just going to have a preliminary conversation with him. We would do one, I think, to prove that it can also work in another city. And then when it does work in another city, then I think that we would probably go to outside investors and ramp up. And we have been mentally and also through the software that we've developed, all our own software, which is unique to the industry. I think I mentioned to the group that I get a full P&L to the penny for all 3 pubs on Tuesday morning. I mean, I got it today for last week. And it is down to the penny as of close of business at 2 a.m. on Sunday night. So that's pretty unique. Big companies don't even, a lot of the big chains don't even have that. So we've got that. We have a very strong operating manual that is also completely computerized, and if there's a change on something, you just go in and make the change, then there's deals for doing it. So we've got the operational piece, we've got the software to support it, and I feel very confident in the concept. There's Irish pubs opening up all over the country. They open up all over the world. And the piece is, for me, is really going into and saying, is this something that, you know what, it's not just about, you have to be making profits. I mean, there's no point in having growth just for the sake of growth. You need to have growth. It's profitable growth. But it is also about doing something where you get kind of excited about it. Right, let's plan this. Oh, how about this? And we can do this. And have you thought about this? And etc. And that's something that I think you can only, in our case, you can only do with something that's kind of a landmark, what I would call a landmark pub. We're also pretty competitive. Well, I kind of, we can go in there and we can be competitive and we can give as good as we get, We don't have to do this or that. So it's a little bit of that. It's kind of what drives us. I mean, I don't know if it's the best strategy.
On the national expansion side, it wasn't touched in the paper, and just kind of wondering on that side, what are your main worries as in costs that you share within the 3 pubs locally? I don't know, maybe you have the same food supplier that does your food. I don't know the business as well as you do, but what are some worries? I'm sorry, that is a word again.
Sure, yeah.
What are your worries? As in, obviously, you have a computer system that can share and be duplicated. Your manager, Peter, does all 3. What are some costs that you're going to incur on a national expansion side that might make that move unprofitable or more risky?
Really, we'll get better liquor costs. We'll get better food costs. And so it really will actually improve our costs because our accountant, our technology guy, are geared. They do 3 right now. They could easily do 6, 7. They could support 6 or 7 places. So I would say for the next 2, 3, 4 places, our overall internal cost, which is a very good point because that is one of the biggest challenges that chains that expand. They get so top-heavy in their administration side of it. But I know for a fact that one that has developed out of here and has gone into huge success that ran into a lot of financial difficulties. I mean, I just had to look at their admin costs, and their admin costs were, they were double what they should be. So it is because they had all these people running around doing forms, filling stuff in and so forth, and that's where we've tried to just keep it very streamlined. A different decision though, when you got to go then from there, or when you got to ramp up a lot quicker. So it is. We'll have to think about that one afterwards. Yes.
I want to go back to when you took that plunge into that, and took that risk and took the plunge into the business. What were you thinking at the time? What were your options? And I obviously understand it's your passion that obviously made you take that dive. But what else was the key factors that played into it?
Well, I think on a very personal level, I really grew up with very little. I mean, we didn't have. There wasn't anything that we had. There was plenty to eat because we grew all our own vegetables, and so forth. And there was a roof over the house, and everything was fine. But we never really had any money, and so it's not like that I had a lot of money or anything like that. But it just, as a currency for myself, it didn't mean a whole lot. It means an awful lot in terms of the business. I mean, I scrutinize those financials every Tuesday morning, just looking for are there little blips out of line. I like it in terms of like almost like a game, even though it's a business. I mean, and a bit of a game, just to look to find out how to figure how things are going. And so the money side of it really wasn't that risk side of it. I never felt like it was a huge kind of a risk. A little bit, I'll have to admit, of the head in the sand, though, as well. All right, head in the sand, we're going to do this. Come on, let's go do it. What do we need to do it? Some days there wasn't enough sand around, and you had to kind of take a look around. But not a lot. Just wanted to do something, and wasn't really, I didn't calculate it all that well. But I was passionate about it, for sure. Yes?
What type of time frame are you looking to expand on? Is your expansion something that's going to take place like in the next year or two, or is it are you if your next location works out, are you planning on like a rapid expansion or kind of a site by site?
Work.
Just kind of gradual.
So to start with, for sure, we're looking right now. Kind of the time frame that I'm set is to do enough due diligence. Build a good, strong team around us of people who know. Maybe it'll be this real estate guy. I've got a person in mind who I know does a lot of the liquor legal work around the country, knows what are the laws in California, what are they here, liquor-wise, insurance-wise, etc. So building a strong team. So we're going to do that. I'll form those relationships between now and the end of March. And then that was the time frame I said. After St. Patrick's Day, end of March, beginning of April, we'll sit down and we'll look at it and we'll see, all right, do we have the team? Have we identified a location that we feel pretty strongly about? And all right, look at everybody in the room and say, you know what, are we going to do it? If everybody kind of says, or they say, yeah, come on, then we'll go do it. Hopefully that's how it'll work out. Yes.
You had mentioned that you would travel to whichever city that you're going to open the local in. Where does Peter figure into those plans? Would he move to that city, or would he just travel with you?
Probably not. I've got somebody in mind again that works with us, that runs one of the 3 pubs at the moment, that I think actually any one of the 3 from the current pubs are all very strong GMs. Any one of them could actually go, but one of them has probably less complications in going than the other 2, and so that might be where we would start. And he's been with us for 5 years, so he knows the operations intimately. And Peter would stay here. Yes?
Why do you think authentic Irish pubs are popular in America, as popular as they are?
Because Irish people are popular, really. Well, there is something historical, obviously. I mean, Ireland was a melting pot once, just like America, just like everywhere. I mean, they're all your half a year. I mean, who are all the Scandinavians in the crowd here? Come on, let's see all those. It's about 70% of you. Well, all your people were running around Ireland for 300 years. I mean, from 800 to the 1100s, the Vikings ran Ireland. In fact, Dublin means Blackpool in Norwegian. 3 of the 4 provinces of Ireland are all Scandinavian names. So there's a lot. The Celts came from Eastern Europe 5,000 years ago. So it was a melting pot. But I think there was a great sense of of learning in Ireland. That's something that good religious kind of influence. One of the positive things out of it was the value of education and as a result of that, of literature. And so the Irish became very involved in literature and in music. And so when they immigrated, there was 3 million people immigrated in the 1800s to all over the world. I mean, 20% of the population in the United States claims some percentage Irish heritage. It might be 5% or whatever it is. But I mean, that's 50 to 60 million people. So it's a lot of people. And Irish, they were social, friendly, for sure, had pubs, but per capita, their drinking in Europe are not even close to the French or the Germans per capita. They drink a lot of wine and stuff. I don't know what it is, something along those lines. So I think it's just, fun, pretty easy going. We haven't been a colonizer, you know. We're not one of the big bag guys, the small little guys. You know. Yes?
I have an industry question. Getting into downtown bars with like a new alcoholic beverage is extremely difficult. And I would imagine that it's even tougher to get into like an establishment like yours. So what advice would you have for somebody who runs like a smaller alcohol company to actually be able to like impress you as like an entrepreneurial bar owner downtown to pick up a different product than you're already carrying?
I would say exactly what I said earlier. Really know what is at the heart of your product. What really is the intrinsic value or soul or heart of your product. And then find out what your customers is. And you find out what is it about his or her business and why your product is better than what they're offering. Because it's better to have some advantages. So it better have. So, for instance, you know, something like Red Bull comes along. It just becomes a phenomenon. And obviously, I mean, he's been doing it for a long time. So it has. But there were connections that were made that it became universally popular. A friend of mine is from South Africa. He just started up a business, I think 3-4 years ago. It's called Air Force Nutri-Soda. And they come in like a Red Bull can, but they're that size, but they're pretty colours and blah blah blah. One is focus, one is immune, one is if you need focus, if you need immune, if you need energy, if you need everything. I don't know, maybe it does kind of work. And he found it very difficult to get it into places. He got it into us because he's a friend. So it is. I mean, he really wouldn't have got in. But he was very clever. He's smart. He's a very smart guy. And he used us as a test market and tried a lot of different ad campaigns and so forth. And he came to us with that idea. He says, here's what I'm going to do for you. And here's the part, because I know it's not exactly a natural fit. And so forth. And he just had his company bought by the guys who own the Polar company who own PepsiCo here in town. They just bought it last month, and he's still with the business. So I know finding some connection. It's just like finding just that what would you call the searing point that you can get through. Because if you can get through to one or two and then use them as a beta site and move it from there. But it is tough. It's very competitive.
Do you have a Red Bull contract at your bar?
Do we have a Red Bull contract? We do have a Red Bull contract, and it's very aggressive. Extremely aggressive. And I'll tell you, for all we sold, Peter got a check from them for $3,000 yesterday. Kind of a payback.
Yeah. It's
not, I believe it's, I asked him, is this legal? And he said, oh, absolutely, he says, yes. My God, they're coming with handcuffs out there. Yeah. But give me a call. For sure. I assume you have a product.
Possible.
Huh?
I have one more question.
Sure.
I swear that the Guinness in Spain is different than the Guinness in the United States. Is there a difference between the two? I had
Spain and the U.S.
Yeah.
I don't know where the product comes from in Spain. I'm trying to think. I know Guinness is brewed Canada, Ireland, England, Nigeria, China, Jamaica. I don't know if anywhere else in Europe. So I'm pretty sure that it's probably from Ireland.
Yeah.
We get the Irish Guinness here in America. Funnily enough, it doesn't even come from Canada. It comes from Ireland to here. What we do, though, is we sit down once a month with the 3 GMs and we talk not just about the details of the operation, because Peter talks with them every week about that, but the 5 of us sit down and we talk specifically about what are we going to do for the next quarter, and what are we going to do for the next year? What ideas are you coming to the table with? Where are their efficiencies? Where are their motivational things that they can do. What are the things we want to focus with on staff? You know, are we going to focus on the sales of Irish whiskey for argument's sake and so forth? So we have a lot of creativity, and they have to come to us a week before that meeting with an email of their individual agendas of what they're going to do. And those, we critique those and kind of say to them, you know, why are you putting this on it? You know, so we try, they're kept on their toes, that's for sure. Yeah. Yes?
What sort of strategies do you use to bring in new customers? Do you use mainly a word-of-mouth campaign, or do you use...
We have a full marketing plan that we put out. We put together from the end of September to the end of November, and then we kind of tweak it in December, and we kick it off in January. And it's usually a combination of all of the things, whether it's PR, advertising, print, radio, etc., etc. We really look hard at what have we done, because we're big fans of commit for a year to something. You tweak it, you change it if it's really not going very well. But we do have a full plan so that each GM sits down before January 1st, and he's got his full marketing plan for the year. He's committed to the budget. It's in his budget for the year, and then he's responsible for implementing it and for reporting back and saying how it's going and so forth. So it is a combination. Yes?
I worked downtown this summer and walked by Kierans just all the time, and it was always packed.
What do you mean you walk by it?
Well, I'm not of legal age to purchase anything there, so it wouldn't be as much fun probably. However, it was always packed outside, and it looked like everyone was having a good time. But does the seasonal effects at all affect how many customers you get, since you seem to have a lot with the outdoor?
We do. You know, I would say in the summertime, our lunch and happy hour business is stronger in the summer than it is in the winter. No, our lunchtime, our daytime, because we have a lot more seats. Winter time, people go back in though for things like music, and we do poetry slams, and we do movie-oki and blah blah blah. So there's something every night. That brings people in. Whereas in the summertime, late on the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays, yeah, it's not so busy because there's not a lot of foot traffic down there at that time of night. They're either coming out of jail or out of sheiks. You know? Both situations, their money is all gone. You know, really, they're not. Yes.
How do you feel that your involvement this year with the Minneapolis International Center is going to impact your business? Are you going? You're going to co-chair?
Yeah, I am going to co-chair, and I'm really kind of excited about it, but I have no idea how it's going to impact the business, because once again I kind of said yes more from a personal than from a business standpoint. But I know, you know, we've had very good connections. They've had some great talks there in the past. The former President of Ireland, who's one of the big wigs in the United Nations, they had an event there. They've had a lot of political events there where they've gotten the governor to attend and blah, blah, talk and etc. And so, you know, it is, I don't really push those things. I'd never say, you know, how it's going. It's just, you know, they say, yeah, he's a nice guy, we'll have it down there, or if it fits for them. So I think, but it can't hurt. It's kind of how I figure it, you know. Yes?
I've heard from a lot of bar owners that the Minnesota liquor industry is down for like the last 3 years by a certain percentage. And a lot of them accredit that to lowering like the driving limit to 0.08.
Yeah.
Do you think that's just an excuse and they're just, you know, not stepping up on their own end, or do you think there's credibility to the fact that that actually has changed what it's like to own and manage a restaurant and bar?
You know, I think there are a lot of shifts in the market. There was the minimum wage was a big hit. There was the smoking ban. There are the liquor laws, whether it happens to be just tougher licensing laws or the 0.08. And all this, but I think at the end of the day, and that is, you know, it's a question that we ask constantly of ourselves. We have on my desk in front of it, and I just sit at a cubicle. I don't even have an office. I have a picture, and I've given it to other guys, of a restaurant, a bar in Dublin that I used to go to 30 years ago. And it was absolutely fantastic. And today, it is, well, this is 3 or 4 years ago I came across it. It's dilapidated, run down, and I took a picture of it, and I stuck it on the board, and I gave it to these other guys, and I said, we better not be sitting looking at a picture of one of the pubs and saying, where did it all go wrong? So we've got to keep thinking about, and it becomes, as opposed to reacting to, what's going to happen. We were very proactive when we knew the smoking ban was come up. We said, we didn't even join one of the groups that was organised to fight it or give any money to them. We said, what, it's inevitable. This is going to happen. And you know what? We actually felt good about it. We were supporters of it. We couldn't really say it to the people in the industry because, they'd be all at you and so forth. But quietly we said, this is a really positive thing. Right, how are we going to deal with it when it comes out? So we had an ad campaign. We were on 4 TVs the first night that it came out because we had all these promotions the last night of it. We'd probably got $20,000 worth of free advertising that night of it. And then the customers who do want to smoke, you know what? We've made it reasonable for them. At least, the weather has been pretty good as well. Last winter wasn't bad, so it wasn't a huge hit. Liquor laws are a little bit tougher if, again, you're out in the suburban areas, I think. Whereas we've got such a concentration in downtown. You have people living there. You have offices. You have convention business and so forth. I'd probably be a little bit more concerned if I was, if I had different area. Yes.
You talked about your spin-off of a local in other cities. Say for whatever reason it doesn't float in this first city that you decide to. You got your plan, you tweak a little bit. It's just not producing the way you like. Would you give up on that national scheme and do something different, or would you take that business plan and try maybe your second choice of city?
Well, therein is the challenge, because you do one like the local in another city. I mean, it would set us back. It would set us back. So I'd have to look very, very carefully about, without getting too focused on, analysis paralysis and so forth. The thing is, though, I'd be very, very slow to go into a location where I didn't see. One of the criteria that we've got down, it's got to be 7 days a week business. It's got to be lunch, happy hour, and dinner. 7 days a week, 365 days of the year. So you're going to go into prime real estate. So we just say in that situation, all right, here's what we're going to have to pay. We're going to have to pay $75 a square foot. How are we going to make it? What do we need to do because, no point in going around the corner and hiding somewhere and saying, we got in for $30 a square, because you never have any business. So, I would have to look at that very clearly. We'd have to see that there have been people who've been successful there for quite a while. So there'd be a lot of analysis of it. If it did happen that it failed, it'd probably set us back quite a bit. Yeah, that'd be a tough one. Yes.
You have a relationship with Finnegan's?
We do.
Is that more of a personal or a business relationship?
Well, actually, I founded it. It was Kieran's Irish Potato Ale, and it was an ale that we had brewed, and we gave all the profits to charity. Jackie Berglund, who now owns it because she bought it for $1, which I still have to check. I'm going to frame it one of these days. She joined us, and she was doing some marketing with us, and she says, I hate this. She had just come back from Paris, where she got her MBA, and she said, I hate it, but she said, I love this beer idea and the charity and so forth. And I said, well, sure, you can have it. And she said, but we have to expand it. Well, you weren't going to expand it with my name on it. None of our competition would buy it. And so she's doing fantastic with it. She's bought it, and she's run it. It's a 501c, and she's got it in over 200 locations, and she's got a very strong, committed board to it. So yeah, it's a good one in life. It's a little bit like Paul Newman's own, that sort of a concept, but for beer. Yep.
In the paper, it mentioned that your hiring techniques are a little bit different because you value employees, as you mentioned, you realize so much of your success is tied to them. One of them was just getting the current wait staff's opinion on potential employees. Were there any other unique techniques that you use for hiring?
Well, I think one of the, for me, one of the best ways to evaluate is I try to just have a regular conversation with somebody. Just have a little chat with them, ask some things about themselves, about their life. Ask them nothing about the business, their experience, or any of those things. Because really, at the end of the day, our mission is treat every customer so they can't wait to come back. I can pretty much tell you, we do not have 100% of the people who can do that today. Will we have them eventually 100%? Probably not, you know, but if we keep pushing towards it, we'll probably get close. So it is. And as we mature, I think, in our own business, and as we have a culture built through the managers who are there day to day, and that they really believe it, not just kind of, oh yeah, that's good, that they actually feel it, then I think it becomes easier when you just have conversation. Because you can teach anybody, I mean, to work a computer or whatever. Some people have skills. I mean, I'd never make a very good bartender, so I wouldn't. I couldn't remember all those drinks that they have to come up with, concoct with, and so forth. But if I did that, and then you look in the eye and you say to somebody, hey, you know, what's going on? You can tell if somebody's friendly and outgoing, if they're interested in people or if they're just interested in themselves. And, yeah. Which gets a little bit more difficult when you begin to grow, because then that's when you lose a little bit of touch with it. But we're thinking about that. We're trying to figure that out. I've actually, if anybody here could come up with so something I cannot find is and I tell you, I've gone to a lot of sources, is what do you call it? Like a Myers-Briggs for friendliness. Can't find one. Doesn't exist. I've gone to big companies. I said, come up with one. No, it has to be cheap. So it has to be expensive because you're giving it to hundreds of people and so forth, and they're not high-paid executives, you know, blah, 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 amount of money. But I can't come across them where you could give and see that would be reasonably accurate, because that is one of the challenges long-term. You lose touch with it. Yes?
I'm just wondering about like liquor licenses in Chicago. I know most cities have like a certain number, and you either have to wait to get into the market or you have to pay like an extensive amount. Is that something that would actually affect when you'd be able to move into that market, or right now is it kind of open?
It would affect it, but there is a supply, and like everything in life, there's a few things about knowing people and not so much what you know and so forth. Little connections. It's kind of a political town, Chicago, for sure, and there are a few things, but that wouldn't. I don't think it's not insurmountable. You know, it may delay things or whatever, but yeah, the opportunity is there for sure. And we do have some good connections there for sure that have given us some good feedback on it. I don't think Chicago will be the first place we go though. Too close. Somewhere with a bit of sunshine would be nicer. That's it.
Well, Kieran,
Yes?
when looking at a lease, as a landlord, I'm always very concerned about that.
Yes.
And as a tenant, you're going into a new market in Chicago. And of course, you're going to build this business in this landlord's facility, and you don't want to have too short a lease, of course. You want options. And what are the things that are going to be very concerning to you in negotiating a lease?
Well, number one, that sort of an investment. We have, with the local, we have 21 years left on the lease. Wouldn't even touch the sort of investment without a long-term lease, at least 50, we want 15 years. We went into the Liffey and we said, we'll absolutely do it 15 years. Take it or leave it, you know, because we'll go somewhere else. So it is, you know, we don't get no product fixation sort of a deal. With Kierans, we actually were ready to give up the lease on it, and we said, you know, we're not sure about that location because there's some other things happening at the end of Hennepin Avenue that I thought, we might want an option to move it over there and so forth, get into a bit more of the mainstream. And so they came back and they did the shortest they would do was 5 years, but they gave us a rate that was so ridiculously low that, you know, it'd be stupid. You could keep two places open, so it went for it. But I think length of time, I don't want percentage rents. I just like to know, here's what I'm going to pay for the year. And it's up to us.
Did you do that in the past? Have you done percentage rents in the past?
One time. And we don't do it any longer. We got out of that as well. Percentage rent is you take over 5,000 square feet and you're going to pay, we'll say, just pay for argument's sake, $10 a square foot, and then there'll be operating costs on top of that, and then many times they'll look for a percentage rent over X amount of sales. So let's say you do then over $2 million in sales, they're going to say you're going to pay us an extra 5% of your sales, and over $5 million you'll pay us 3% or something along those lines. And I just don't know. It complicates it in my head. I just need to know I'm going to give you $10,000 a month or whatever else it is, and we're all done. You don't have to see my books and, etc. We don't have to. I mean, D'Amico were fantastically successful in town. My understanding is, at least it was a couple of years ago, that they only do percentage rent. That's the deal on it. So it's kind of what's in your head, I suppose, to some degree. And I like to know, here's what it is, and here's what we're going to be paying for the next 15 years. This is what the line is. We do a budget out even for 5 years, and I know here's what the sales we're going to have, because this is the bottom line that we absolutely have to have, And so, yes.
If you expand to like in other markets or the international markets, will you keep them all with your name on them, so that way? So I work in a hotel, and there's lots of business travelers, and when they ask for steakhouse, or they say, "Oh, we have a Ruth Chris," or "We have this and that in their city." Do you want that when they come to one city to another, that they know that, oh, that I know this place? Or do you want it to be something like a local, this restaurant down the block is local, it's only here, it's great, it's fabulous, it's ours?
We get a lot of business travels at the local, given its location and the hotels and the corporations that are around us. And for sure, that's one of the things that often kind of tweaked it in my head, was they'd say, God, I'd love if we had this in blah, 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 New York or whatever. And there are a lot of Irish pubs, and a lot of very good ones. And this is not being cocky or anything along those lines, because what is an Irish pub? What's an Italian restaurant? What's a Chinese restaurant? What's anything to somebody? It's kind of like, you make a personal connection with it. You like it. You like the food. You like whatever it happens to be. That's really what it is for it. There's a lot of Irish pubs out there. One can be absolutely just as good to somebody as something else and so forth. But when it comes to the style, the landmark type pub, I mean, in my opinion, there isn't one like it in the United States. There's a lot of very good and very successful Irish pubs, but one that has that scale and the quality of the workmanship that has gone into it. Most of the Irish pubs that have opened up, I mean, really, they're pine, and it's painted or stained or done something like that. They are done for basically about $500,000 to $700,000 per pub. That's without a kitchen. So you add the kitchen in and whatever else it is, so maybe it's $1 million. Well, the local costs a hell of a sight more than $1 million. So to do it. And so that's where there's a little bit of barrier to entry too as well. Higher risk. But you go in and you do something like that. For somebody else to come along and put an Irish pub close to where the local is, they'd think long and hard before they would do it. I mean, I would if I was them. And so my sense is that we might keep the same name on it, the local. I'm looking at that hard at the minute to do it. But the look of it, the scale has to be the same, and we have the criteria, but the look would be different. So you'd walk into it, and if you had never been, or if you had been to Minneapolis and you'd been into the local, but you didn't really know what the name was, I don't think that you'd know that it was the same people if you walked in Boston. That's what but it would have the same scale, the same quality of the work, approximately the same size, would have to have a big outdoor, etc., heart of a city, energy about it, the lighting, all of that would have to be of the same quality, I would say, the same level. Yes?
How much does the renovations cost you?
For right now, really, I've got a crick in my neck. It keeps it's probably gone up about 5% since I came here. That's the way it's been going all week, so it has, but it's, and obviously this is all in confidence, but it's 1.2 million. Yeah, and that's without the space next door. We'll see how we have a budget for that. But budgets that's the one thing, I've got to get my hands around one of these days. But everybody I talk to says, I mean, you probably have the same experience, nothing ever comes in under budget. But I know what it is, It's also partly to do with, oh, God, that'd be better if this was this way. Oh, geez, I wish you told us that a month ago. That sort of a deal. That costs money, those ideas. That's it. Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate it.